the idea of power, of human beings having power, we actually, in the end, we express our powerlessness by saying, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There is no power, there's no strength to hawla, like you hawlu, to make any changes or to actually affect anything. There's no strength or power except billah, through the means, the divine enablement. This is the istita'a that Imam al-Tahawi mentions in his book, that he grants us. And so it's very important for us not to see power, even in the world, to see nations with power. They don't have power in reality. And the people that understand this are actually, they're the freest people, because they're not afraid. They're not afraid of people that are in power. They're not afraid. I mean, obviously we behave with the asbab, so we're not foolish people in that way. The Prophet ﷺ said, Al-mu'minu la yudhillu nafsa, that a believer should never humiliate himself. And so Sidi Ahmed Zarruq and others mention that they should not ever put themselves in situations where they will be humiliated. And Ahmed Zarruq said, لا يتعرضوا للسلطان, that they don't oppose government in a way that the government will in turn humiliate them, put them in jail and do these things. Powerlessness is our state. It is the actual natural state of the servant of Allah. We are abd. And the thing about the abd, the abd is ajiz. He or she is powerless. It's the abd and the amma, that they do what they're told by their mawla, which again doesn't mean that we don't do things, we choose things in the world, we do all these things, but we live with this alignment with the divine. In other words, we restrict ourselves to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted us to do. And in that way, we, in a sense, are handing over that freedom. And in doing that, by entering into Islam, by entering into a state of submission, we actually become free. So there's an immense power in powerlessness, and there's an immense freedom in powerlessness. And this is something that the early Muslims really understood well. They understood this in a very deep and powerful way. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, طُوبَى لِمَنْ تَوَاضَعَ فِي غَيْرِ مَنْقَصَةٍ طُوبَى لِمَنْ تَوَاضَعَ فِي غَيْرِ مَنْقَصَةٍ. Tuba, some of the commentaries say that Tuba is a tree in paradise. There are many hadiths that use this term, Tuba. It also can mean blessed are the people, but some say it's actually a tree with immense shade and fruit in paradise that will be for the people who do these things. So he said, Man tawada'a fi ghayri manqasa, who humbles him or herself without manqasa, there's no deficiency in them. In other words, like a wealthy person that's humble despite his wealth, an intellectual, highly educated person who's humble despite their education and their understanding. That's what it means to be humble. And it's something that we have to struggle with. There's a type of tawadu, if you actually look at the morphological form of it. It actually has to do with, like, you actually do it with a knowledge that you need to be humble. Because in the end, al-kibriya'u lillah, al-'azamatu lillah, wal-kibriya'u lillah, the vastness, the greatness, the grandeur, the glory and the majesty, all of these are attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're not attributes of a servant. And so the servant should be humble before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ said, Man tawada'a lillah, rafa'ahu Allah. Whoever is humble before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will elevate that person. And this is something that we have to learn as an ummah, that in many ways we tend to forget this important metaphysical truth, that Allah will elevate the people who are humble. الَّذِينَ لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا. Those who don't want to be exalted in the earth, they don't want it. لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فسادا. And that wow there indicates that these are two separate things. They don't want to be elevated in the earth. Fir'aun, Allah says, علا في الأرض. علا فرعون. He exalted himself, he puffed himself up in the earth. And so it's very important that Muslims should not want to be in those positions of power or authority, to be, no. In fact, the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever seeks positions of authority or power, they should not be given them. There goes elections. So it's very important that we remember that Allah is the one that yumekkin, that He's the one that gives tamkeen, but He gives tamkeen with conditions. For the people He loves, He'll give tamkeen. الَّذِينَ مَكَّنَّهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. What do? أَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةِ. You know, they establish prayer. They pay their zakat. They fulfill the obligations of being in that position. If they don't have that ability, if Allah loves them, He will not give them, He will not establish them in the earth. And so powerlessness is an incredible sunnah that I believe it's actually a sunnah mansiyah. It's a forgotten sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ. Even when he was forced into jihad, and it's very clear, Ibn Taymiyyah makes this clear, and many scholars, he really was constantly looking for avenues of peace. The Prophet ﷺ always wanted to find an avenue of peace. In the 29 battles, they're called battles, they're not battles. Ghazawat are military expeditions. They're not battles, but they're often translated as battles. It's a mistake. Because in those 29, there's again difference of opinion, 27, 29, but in those 29 battles, fighting only occurred in 11. And in the greatest battle in terms of numbers, which was the Khandaq, less than 10 people died. And there were tens of thousands of people involved in that, 3,000. On the Muslim side, 30,000. It was 10-to-1 numbers. Despite that, less than 10 people died. And when I did a study of the number of people that died during the Prophet's lifetime, we're looking at less than 400 people. It's quite stunning. And the Bani Qurayza, which is clearly an exaggerated number, and the book that Barakat Ahmed wrote, Muhammad and the Jews, is, I think, a really important book that really shows that the numbers were grossly exaggerated much later. So this idea of طوبى لمن تواضع في غير منقصة وذل في نفسه من غير مسألة, and he ذل في نفسه, he in his own self he deems himself insignificant. And this is another really important quality, is to recognize not only are we all expendable, as de Gaulle said, that the graveyard is filled with indispensable people. That, I mean, one of the things about life is that when you die, most people are just going to, if they knew you, they might say, oh, mashallah, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. If they were close, they might send condolences to the family and things. But the people that are really going to miss you are your direct loved ones. Those are the people that are going to miss you. Other people won't really miss you. The world goes on. And we've lost greats. When Ibn Manjur died, who was one of the greatest scholars of Morocco, the man who buried him, who was his student, wept and just said, I knew this world was insignificant when a man that had this tongue, because he taught his whole life and he was just a master of all the sciences, one of the truly great faqirs of Moroccan history. And he said, I just knew that if worms could eat this tongue, this earth had such insignificance in my eyes. And this is the nature of dunya. We're passing through it. It's important, and we're people that love the alam because it's Allah's creation, but we despise the dunya. And the distinction between those two is very important, between alam and between dunya. Alam is this incredible theophany. It's this amazing theater of enlightenment. It's this incredible manifestation of divine attributes, the actions of God, the af'al of God. It's stunning with its stars in the heavens, all of these galaxies, this extraordinary sky, the blueness of the sky and its reflection in the ocean, the wonders of the sea, the incredible spectrum of flora and fauna on this planet. We're living in a time where we're discovering all these micronutrients and all these amazing foods from all over the world. That aspect of the world is something to just marvel at and to feel joy just about being in it. But the dunya is reputation. It's he said, she said. King Lear, there's a wonderful scene at the end of King Lear where he tells Cordelia, about how we're going to be free now from who's in and who's out at the court. We can live life now without having to worry about, because he has a realization, an incredible realization in that play. This is part of dunya. As you get older, you will see more and more how empty and vacuous the life of this world is. Hayatud dunya. Mata'ul ghurur. It's a delusional pleasure. Mata'ul ghurur. That's all it is. It's a delusional pleasure. I've been with the poorest people on the planet, and I've been with the richest people on the planet. I've seen the inside of palaces, and I've lived in the huts of some of the poorest people on the planet. And some of the most extraordinary people I've ever met are the poorest people that I've met. And so this is dunya. We just have to understand the nature of the abode and what it is.